Hey there, are you grieving the potential loss of a loved one or feeling overwhelmed with the loss of someone you care about? If so, you're in the right place. Lisa Hartung here, and this podcast is designed to guide you through topics surrounding death and dying. We'll dive into multifaceted aspects of grief, offering you a blend of personal stories, expert insights, and practical advice for your grief journey. May this be a safe space for you to learn, listen, and ask questions about your own life and loved ones. So grab your favorite beverage and let's dive in. Happy Mother's Day! Welcome to the first official episode of Giving Grief Grace. Wanted to send love and hugs to all of those who are celebrating Mother's Day today. I know that it can be a really tough time if you have lost your mom, or perhaps you don't have the best relationship, or you didn't have the best relationship with your mom. So holding space for all of the feels today. I wanted to dedicate this first episode to my mom, who passed away a few years ago. And I wanted to share my experience from going to Paris and Giverny, France last year, so 2024, in April, with my wonderful mother-in-law. I'm so grateful for her love and light, and we're just like two little peas in a pod, and we have so much fun traveling together. And so it's been a joy to have her on the journey to celebrating my mom in meaningful ways. I wanted to share my thoughts and recollections of this trip that we took together last year to really honor my mom's wishes in a meaningful way. And so if anyone hears the story and they're like, oh my gosh, I would love to do something similar, or if you have any questions about how we did it, please let me know. We will be planning another trip to Giverny in hopefully next year. And so if anyone wants to join in, please feel free to let me know. And the planning is already in the works. So without further ado, hope you enjoy this. I am washing dishes at the beginning of the recordings. Just know that and enjoy. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you next time. Hi, everyone. I just got back from Paris last night with my mother-in-law, JoAnn. We went to Paris to spread my mom's ashes in Monet's garden, which is something that she and I had been planning a trip since I was in third grade, so about 30 years ago. And we were planning a trip to Monet's garden to see it in real life. My mom had painted the Monet water lilies on our classroom wall when I was in third grade, and then she did a whole segment on Impressionism with our class and inspired us to learn about art and artists. So this was a trip, and my third grade teacher was in on it. We said, all right, when Lisa graduates from high school, we'll all go on a trip to Paris as the three of us. So when I graduated from high school, it just wasn't the right time. And then we thought, okay, well, maybe it's when I graduate from college. But then we were heading to England for grad school. So that wasn't the right time. And then fast forward, my husband and I decided, all right, when my mom retires, she owned a business for over 35 years. She was closing the business at the end of 2019. We said, this is the perfect time. We'll surprise her for her birthday and say, we've booked a 10-day trip to Paris. We're going to do all of the things that we've always been talking about. And it was set in stone. She closed the shop on 12/31/19, and then COVID hit in 2020, right before our scheduled trip. Then my mom got sick with pancreatic cancer in 2021, and in 22 she passed away. In 23, I spent the year thinking about ways to honor my mom and really make everything special. We ended up spreading her ashes at my camp, which was her happy place, her little slice of heaven. So we spread her ashes at camp in her gardens that she loved to be in. And then we also, per her wishes, spread her ashes at the summer cottage that on the coast of Maine that she grew up going to as a child and an adult. Her siblings came to their family cottage, and we had a lovely day in the fall of 2023. And then I said, okay, well, spring of 24, it's time to go to Paris. Let's do it. And My mom's friend just happened to be going to Paris to Monet's garden that spring, and the friend and my mom and I had all talked about going together to really make this dream a reality. And so, with her friend going, I said, all right, automatically, I'll go too, and we'll make this happen. My mother-in-law agreed to come with us because she knew this friend as well. And so, fast forward to April 2024, and my mom's friend had a health scare and wasn't able to go. And then a couple of days before our flight took off, my mother-in-law broke her hand. And I said, you know what, maybe this just isn't the right time. We can reschedule. And she said, nope, we are going. And so my mother-in-law and I flew to Paris, and we scheduled our first day there in Giverny, to bring mom to a place that she'd always dreamed of going. On Mother's Day of 2022, she had come down. She was already undergoing treatment for cancer, and then she had had a bout in the hospital, and then had C. diff, and so was back in the hospital. And so I was staying with her in her hospital room, and we realized that she just wasn't well enough to go to the gardens. And so I got my phone out and we took a virtual tour of Monet's house, and we got to chit chat about all of the different things about Monet and what we had planned to do together. And so it was just so surreal being there in real life, with my mom in a different form. And I haven't really paused enough to put my feelings down or think about what this trip meant in the grand scheme of things. To me, it's like the end of this lifelong dream, but I don't feel like it's the end because I want my daughter to be able to go and experience the beauty that my mom had always loved. And she learned from Monet about painting on plein air and gardening and having colors in your gardens so that there are blooms all year round, or throughout the whole season there are different things in bloom always, so it doesn't look like the garden is like thriving in one section and then it's all dead. It was just so magical to be there in real life. I'm so grateful for the opportunity, and for my husband for caring for a child, and for our nanny for helping during the day for childcare, and to my mother-in-law for agreeing to come on this wild girls trip. We really just made the most of it, celebrating things that mom and I had always talked about and planned together. It was such a special, meaningful trip. And I think about how we always say, oh, we'll go and we'll go do that. I think that when you lose a loved one, you realize how precious time is. And so instead of talking about doing it, just do it. And that's a way that you can really feel like no stone was left unturned, and that you're able to fully, live into that moment. And so I didn't do any social media while I was there. I didn't check emails. I told work I'm not even bringing my laptop. This is probably the only trip I've been on in my professional career that I haven't brought a laptop with me on a trip. And I wanted to just fully be there and be with mom's spirit and be with my mother-in-law. And we just had such a lovely time. My heart is so full, and I wish that for other people as they are thinking of how to honor their loved one. And maybe there was a trip that they had wanted to go on together, and why not go with a loved one who is still here, and either bring a possession or ashes, so that your loved one is still with you in some capacity, way, shape, or form on that journey with you, and just enjoy being with them. It was this like a very odd sense of comfort to have mom, even with her ashes, just to have her there with us in the gardens. It was so sweet. And, no one else knew that she was there with us. It was just so lovely sitting, hearing the birds chirp and sing, feeling the sun, playing poo sticks.
in the river, which is something that my mom and I always did growing up. And that's a game that Winnie the Pooh plays with Piglet in his stories and Roo. Just fully being present. I was almost worried sick going into the day because, the anticipation is so hard and you build up and you build up this like, oh, it's supposed to be the ultimate. This is a trip we've been talking about for 30 years, and to really make it a reality is just wild. To think that we were able to make it happen is still so surreal to me. And I look back at the pictures and I think they're so special. But the reason why I know mom was there with us was because there were three signs that I saw when we were in the garden. The first one, because my mom's friend couldn't come with us, we ended up shifting the day that we were going to go visit the gardens, because now we were able to just go on our own schedule. And so we ended up shifting our day to visit the gardens. And in doing so, I really wanted to make this trip. We're flying over to France, and then we're driving an hour and a half into the countryside of France to go to this beautiful home and gardens. And so if we were going to make all of that effort, I wanted to really make it meaningful. And here's some history that perhaps maybe I wouldn't have read from a textbook or learned in my art history education. So we hired a tour guide. I had emailed around because we switched the day literally a week before we flew over. I was like, gosh, everyone is going to be booked. So I emailed the Monet's home and said, look, is anyone available? They were not, but they sent me a list of probably 10 names. I contacted all of them, and these two women got back to me, and one of them said, I am fully booked for that day, but I get out at 3 and would love to have coffee with you. Your story really resonates with me, and I would love to meet you in person. The next one said, I'm fully booked, but I've given my morning tour to someone else because your story really resonates with me, and I have a similar story. And she went on to tell me about it. And she said, because of that, I want to meet you in person, and I want to be the one to tour you and your mother-in-law around the gardens. I was just, again, overcome with gratitude because, these women didn't know me from anyone else, but they were so gracious and they allowed us into their lives. And, we were able to connect with both of them in real life. And it was just such a magical day. You always hear about tours going from Paris to Giverny or Paris, Giverny to Versailles all in one day. And I always thought, well, that's silly. Like, I go to Monet's garden, I want to spend the whole day there. And we really did. We had our private tour in the gardens with one professional, and then we met the other for coffee and lunch in the late afternoon, or I guess tea. Then she took us around outside, like Giverny outside of Monet's garden, to really see and learn about the art collective around the same time, end of the 19th century, beginning of the 20th, where Monet was really active and successful, and Impressionism or the arts were really prominent in society, and kind of how Giverny was this mecca outside of Paris that was kind of a destination for artists. So it was just so special to be able to connect with these women, share mom's story, to have her with us in real life. So anyway, so going back to why I know she was with us, what's funny about Paris or France, typically we learned that in March, the weather is beautiful sunshine and then absolute downpour. That's the March typical weather. And in April, it usually warms up. Well, apparently we were having March weather the week that we were there. And so even though the forecast said no rain or no rain until, and then a 20% chance from at 3 o'clock, with 0.05 inches of rain expected. Even though it said that, there was still downpour sun, or raining, lightly raining, misting, and then sun. So it's kind of fun. We knew, regardless of the day, it's going to rain, but it made everything vibrant. So anyway, We get to right before the Japanese bridge, which is Monet's, probably one of his most famous paintings. So the backdrop of this most famous painting or paintings, before we get there, it's an absolute downpour. So we're like huddling under his bamboo forest and talking with our tour guide. And then all of a sudden, the sun comes out and brightens everything. We walk onto the Japanese bridge, and there's like one or two people there around the bridge with us. I look up, and there is a little honeybee buzzing around above our heads. And my dad always called my mom honeybee or queen bee. So that was mom's thing. Like anytime there were bumblebees with crowns, we would always get them for mom, or that they would make us think of mom. So having the bumblebee around is so lovely. And one might think, oh, well, there are always bumblebees in gardens because they're pollinators. And I would have to say, I think we only saw two more bees the entire time we were there. And we got there at 9:30 in the morning, and we didn't leave until 5:30 at night. It was pretty wild. So there's a bumblebee there, and then we were walking around the water lily pond and Monet's famous water lilies. I look over, and at this point in time, there were more people. It was past the early morning, and so there were more people coming. And this woman walks by with the same exact hat that my mom wore every time she gardened. It was this like blue canvas ribbed hat with a little brown strap to hold this hat onto her head. And it was kind of like a bucket hat with a curled up rim. So this woman walks by with this hat, and I had not seen anyone else wear this hat. She's had it for years. I was stunned, thinking, that's mom walking by us. And then a woman comes up behind us. We're taking pictures of the pond, and she goes, "Hey, honey, where's Emily?" Emily was my mom's name. It was just so lovely to hear her name spoken aloud after seeing this woman in the hat. And maybe her name was Emily, I don't know. But it was just in such a special place as we were on the far end of the pond looking at the Japanese bridge with a beautiful, fully in bloom purple wisteria. And purple is the sign of pancreatic cancer. And so it was just really wild to feel her presence in that way, through those signs. And so I'm still working through all of the emotions, and I usually journal every night, and my mother-in-law and I were just so busy the whole time, really fully enjoying our time in Paris and the surrounding suburbs, that I didn't journal, and I kept on kicking myself for not journaling every single night, because I always feel like it's such a gift to be able to go back and experience the joy and delight that you had while you were traveling, and then carry that into your daily life. And so I'm still thinking about that, and I really want to make this post meaningful. And then I think, what is it if you don't share it? It's still such a positive memory. But I also know my third grade teacher messaged me right before we left, and she goes, I'll be thinking of you this week. And how touching is that after 30 years we still have that sweet relationship. And we were able to FaceTime my sister, who couldn't come on the trip, while we were in the gardens. And then we FaceTimed my mom's friend, who was unable to come on the trip at the last minute. And I really would love to go back to the gardens with both my sister and this friend, to be able to share in this beauty, to be in such a peaceful place. I mean, it was really a wonderland that Monet created, and my mom really tried to emulate that with her gardens at our summer house in Maine, which, if you are a New Englander, we call them camps. They do have fully running water, and it is winterized. I don't know, I just feel like a hole has been filled in the journey of mom. And so we got home, and I'm very emotional tonight because I've just really been missing mom. And it's the first time that it's been quiet in the week, and I'm also jet lagged and trying to meal prep and make, meals for the family for the week before diving into work after being away for a week. So there's always that. And whenever I get stressed, I always think about mom and wish she was here so I could just chat with her about it and have her listening ears. So I went back and listened to some voicemails from her, and it's so sweet to hear them and to hear her talk. I will continue to ask her to send me signs in the days ahead, especially as this feels like it's closing out a chapter. And I don't like to think of it as a closing of a chapter, because I want to continue a joy and a life story and her memory. And my mother-in-law asked me, like, well, where else did Emily want to go? And I said, well, Niagara Falls. When we found out mom wasn't able to fly, we were like, all right, well, let's drive to Niagara Falls. That's always been, on our bucket list. So I'm hoping I can convince my dad to come to Niagara Falls, because we can drive there and it is stunningly gorgeous. So that's on the docket for persuading my dad to come, and maybe my sister as well if there's no flying involved.
Hey everyone, if you're in the Farmington, Maine area on Saturday, May 17th at 11 a.m., we are hosting the 3rd annual Emily's Planting and Blooming Day at the Farmington Public Library. This is for children of all ages. They will plant pots, plant a flower or vegetable, and listen to story time. So it's a super fun event. It's free and open to the public. Please reserve your spot by calling 207-778-4312. Again, that's 207-778-4312. You can also reserve your spot by emailing director@farmingtonlibrarymaine.org with your name, the number of spots, and your contact information. So come join us on Saturday, May 17th at 11 a.m. at the Farmington Public Library in Maine for Emily's Planting and Blooming Day. We can't wait to celebrate our mom. Have a great week.
All that to say, I am super grateful for the opportunity to be able to go, for the lives that we were touched by, and for the experiences and the people we met. And it just seemed that everything worked out, and I would be remiss if I didn't think that mom was up there really watching over us. And it was the most safe I've ever felt in Paris. That's probably also because the Parisian government is preparing for Paris Olympics 2024. So that begin in just a few short weeks. So it was kind of the perfect time to go. Again, I'm just so grateful and look forward to sharing this story in different ways in the years and weeks to come. Thank you so much for listening to me blubber on and get extremely emotional, but I'm a verbal processor, so it definitely helps me talk through this, whatever I'm feeling, as I'm trying to make sense of it all. Thank you for listening. And if you have that trip you were talking about with your loved one, I totally recommend going and booking that trip and taking action, because you never know how gratifying it will be and what a sense of closure it will bring. Closure in the sense that you will have made their wishes, and then also opened a door for new possibilities and new adventures.
Thanks so much for listening to this week's episode of Giving Grief Grace. If you found the content interesting and think it could help a friend or a loved one, please share it with them. Subscribe to this podcast and get a weekly dose of positivity. And while you're at it, please leave a review. If you enjoyed the show and want to support me financially on my grief journey, I'm raising funds for Project Purple, a nonprofit whose mission is to see a world without pancreatic cancer. I'm doing this by running the New York City Marathon in November 2025, and I'll leave a link to my fundraising page in the show notes. If you've lost a loved one and are looking for support in an online community, consider joining our free private Facebook group, Giving Grief Grace. May you be kind to yourself in the week ahead and give yourself grace. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you next week.